What's up, everyone? My name's Tom, his name's Jack, and today we're going to do our 2025 shop tour. Alright, so to start, this building right here is my wood shop. It is 20 by 20 exterior. I've had this for about 2 years now. It was one of those Amish built sheds. I went ahead, cleared a spot on my property, and they gravelled it, and they brought it in 2 pieces on the truck, muled it back here, and put it together. It's actually done pretty well for me. It was more affordable to do that than actually buy the materials, let alone take the time to build the thing. So it worked out. From the time that I ordered it to the time that the electrician was done and I could work in here was about 3 weeks. So now, one thing you're going to notice about this is it is a small space. This is how I make my living as a woodworker and a carpenter. I do go in the field and do work directly in the homeowners' homes and things like that. But I didn't try and just cram as much as I could in here. So if I don't need a tool, I don't have a tool in here. And it just, having that extra room, I build a lot of big stuff, big built-ins, countertops, things like that. I'm very practical. I use tools at work. I have no brand loyalty except for my own brand. And yeah, now I have some big plans for this upcoming year for the shop. I may actually do a move. But I wanted to go ahead and show you what I've actually been working out of and how I've made my living all this time. So, all right, so we're gonna start off in this corner. So I do have a double barn door here. You'll also notice there's no windows in this shop at all. I ordered it that way so I could really maximize my wall space. But starting off over here, we have whiteboard, orders, things like that. My laser that I do not utilize anywhere close to enough. That is actually my Entrepreneur of the Year award that I got in college. I got a scholarship for it. I was trying to design a workout product. Didn't work, but it was an awesome experience. I did go to school for business and accounting. So, Jack. So yeah, real proud of that. A basic junk storage system. You'll see a lot of junk storage systems in here that I really would love to take the time to actually fix all that, but instead I'm filming a YouTube video. So do me a favor and subscribe. Make it worth it. Moving over a little bit here, this is the rolling pack out. I did an entire video on pack out, how I use it. So go back, watch that. Okay, moving on into the chaos here. Wood scraps. This is all going to be cutting boards, but I'm not a cutting board guy. I don't want to make my money $100 at a time, one cutting board at a time. But usually around the holidays, I'll do a big push. I didn't have time this year. I'm starting a new helper tomorrow, actually. So that's what we're going to start him on, is we're going to just build as many cutting boards as we possibly can. And it's a great way to train a helper. And then below that, we have one of the wings of my miter saw bench, and we get into the miter saw. Okay, getting into this tool here. I came up as a carpenter. I didn't start as a woodworker. I got into woodworking later on. I could do a video about my whole career, how I got to this point, if that interests anybody. But most woodworkers have a really stupid opinion about miter saws, and I could do a whole video on that too. But basically, this is like the heart and soul of my shop. And if you know what you're doing and you have at least a decent saw, it doesn't have to be a Festool by any means. This could be the most accurate tool in your shop. It can be the most useful tool in your shop. And that's how it is for me. It's really like the heart and soul of what I do. I've built perfect miter boxes, jewelry boxes, things like that using just this saw. And it's a DeWalt DW780. So it does have the shadow cut line, which I refuse to live without now. I really haven't upgraded to like a bar forward saw because the only one that has it is the Makita battery operated saw, and I don't really want to spend $1,200 or whatever that thing costs. So DeWalt, please come out with a new model, forward sliders. It does take up a few more inches for this back area here, but to me it's worth it. I mean, that few inches of floor space, it's worth it to have this saw in my shop. It sits on a mobile miter stand. It's a rigid model. I think it's discontinued, but it had wheels on it. That's why I bought it. I built my wings here out of cedar that I rescued on a job site that was going to the dumpster. I literally fabricobbled them together as temporary, and that was like 5 years ago. I'm still using them. So I do have a stop block. I did upgrade the dust collection to the Shop Nation dust collection. I highly recommend that. Like, it completely changed dust collection for the saw. It had none to begin with. It's actually pretty good now. So I'm a massive fan of that. I do have a pop-up hood that I put on this. It's supposed to be mobile. I don't know the brand off the top of my head. It is a pain in the butt to take on and off. And I just had this saw out in the field. I'm going to have it out in the field again. So I don't have it on there right now, but the hood does help keep your dust down as well. You will notice a theme here when I say, like, I had this out in the field. Like, my whole shop for the most part can just load up in the trailer and go. And it's designed that way. That way I don't have two sets of tools, and I always have stuff in the trailer and I'm worried about it getting stolen, things like that. So yeah, a lot of my stuff goes in and out. Eventually I may upgrade to having two sets of tools. Say I do buy a new saw. I'd like to build this into a permanent bench too at some point. I don't know when I'm going to get around to that. But yeah, this is one of my favorite tools. I've had it for years. I've cut miles of trim with it and everything else in hardwoods, and it does great. I run the Diablo blades, the high tooth count ones. I can't remember exactly. It's 100 tooth. They're decent. I really don't get deflection on them, even though this is a 12-inch, until they start to get dull or need cleaned. And I probably go through about 3 of them a year. I did the math to break it down, buying forest blades and getting them sharpened, which would require me to buy 2 blades because this is never not being used. So while I'm shipping it off to be sharpened, I have to have a second one. And I think it would be like 4 years before the investment would pay off. That wasn't a great investment. I can run to Home Depot and grab these if I need one. So yeah, all in all, a fantastic saw. It's really accurate. It stays accurate in and out of the truck. It doesn't get bumped off all the time. I used to have a rigid slider. Every time I loaded it in and out of the truck, I had to dial it back in. So I check this for square all the time, but I never have to adjust it. So I'm really happy with this. If it burns out, I'll buy another one. That's how much I like it. So definitely something I would go with there. Oh, also it has its own dedicated shop vac below here, and it is on a system so that when I pull the thing, the vacuum kicks on automatically, and as you can see, it runs for a while afterwards. There's a bit of a delay. I wish it was instant because I'm usually pretty quick about making my cuts, so now I kind of have to stall. But yeah, that's my miter saw setup. All right, getting over in this corner, we have the rigid spindle sander. I know some people love it, some people hate it. I really only use it when I'm doing curves. It's fantastic for that. I've been building a lot of doors, and they all had arches, so I've been doing a lot of curve work. It's one of those things, take it or leave it. I know some people absolutely hate it. I don't really get why, but it's there. It doesn't take up a ton of space, and it sits on a stand. You'll notice that this entire wall on up, and then this whole back wall here, and then actually like the center beam, I have lumber racks everywhere. I'm really big on not having to go to Home Depot or Sherwin-Williams or whatever it is if I don't have to. So I always try and keep excess things, just certain consumables, and then these are always changing. So job comes in, customer pays the deposit, I go pick up the lumber, it sits on the racks and acclimates, and I always have extra just in case to avoid those trips. So yeah, again, they get turned into other projects, they go to the next job, or cutting boards if worst case scenario. All right, so let's talk about the wolf in the room here. This is Jack. He's very kissy. He's a Czechoslovakian Valchek, which means that he is 28% Carpathian wolf. He's about 5 years old. As you can see, he's a big boy and 100% good boy. Super affectionate. But yeah, I don't have him in the shop all the time. It's like when I'm doing real heavy things, he's inquisitive. He jumps up here on his own. So anytime it's dangerous for him to be in here, I don't actually have him in here. But when I'm just kind of organizing, cleaning up, doing glue ups, things like that, it's always fantastic to have him along. If you may have seen some of my other videos, I had a pit bull in here, Blue. Unfortunately, he passed away in about July. And then my lab passed away about a month prior to that. But yeah, so we still got Jack. Come here, Wolfers. He's a good boy. All right, getting over to this wall here. I did a whole video on this, but this is my planer bench setup. Really happy with this. Obviously, I said in the video, you should go watch that after this one. But yeah, this was an awesome way to build this in. DeWalt 735, I think. I'm dyslexic, actually, so if I'm wrong with these numbers, that's why. And then we put the sheetless cutter head in. And then I have all of the underneath storage. I might build cabinets to slide under here later, like as I need them. But I didn't see the sense in taking all the time and money to build a bunch of cabinets and then not put anything in them, or they just hold junk. I'd much rather build something that I can add those pieces in as I need it, move them around, things like that. And then right there, we just have a little, this is basically all my cabinet hardware, bits and bobs, things like that. And then my extra long track saw. There's not a joiner in this shop, and this is one of the ways that I get around that, is I use my track saw as a joiner. I use my track saw all the time. That's one of those tools I don't know how I live without, but especially joining long boards, not having to piss around with little joining connections. I don't know about other brands, they might be better. The DeWalt way to connect these tracks is kind of sucks. But yeah, so I use that constantly, and it saves me a ton of space not having to have a joiner in here. And I'd love to have one, but that's just a big piece of equipment and I don't have the room for it. So that's one of the ways that I do a workaround. Also, you can see back there behind me, those are just planer sleds that I built. That's the other way that I get around the joiner. So you put it on the sled, run the whole sled through, it gets you one perfectly flat side, then you can flip it. Now you have two parallel sides. Okay, continuing to work our way around, I have another scrap wood shelf underneath the planer bench. This is my drill press, just a Facebook marketplace find. It's nothing fancy. I use it to do shelf pins, or not shelf pins, mortise out holes for Euro hinges and cut plugs. That's really the only two things that I use it for. And then over here we have the Buck Tool dust extractor, dust collector. I picked this up secondhand too. It's better than a shop vac, but I mean it's inexpensive, but it has continued to work. I think I clogged it one time, but because I turned the planer on and didn't turn that on, and that was a mistake. The fan and the planer will inflate this bag, and you don't realize that you're doing it because you got earmuffs on, and then you get done and it's just the whole hose is full of chips. That was a great time. You will only make that mistake once, maybe twice. But yeah, and then I got this weird bump out wall over here. That's part of the structure, unfortunately, but I keep a few clamps there, some odds and end offcuts. There's a lot of wood in here that I probably should get rid of. Kind of a hoarder. Oh, I'm popular. All right, as we continue to work our way around the shop here, this is the other side of that bump out, and I built a loft up here. We'll go over that in a second. But as you can see, I keep a lot of my clamps on here. My clamping coils are up there. This thing right here is kind of my sort of mission control. This is the most organized chaos, but it's where I do keep a lot of my paperwork when I draw plans, things like that. There's a lot of glue, just a lot of stuff that I grab all the time. I keep my remotes from my two overhead Wen dust collectors in here. You should be able to hear that kick on. Not dust collectors, dust filters. Words are hard. There's a lot of dust. But yeah, med kit, a lot of those sorts of things. My planes are in there, a lot of weird jigs, stuff like that that I just need to grab and get to the workbench, which you can't see, but is right here. It's all nice, easy reach. And but this is one of the General Harbor Freight rolling toolboxes. The missus bought this for me and I absolutely love it. Here you have kind of the pouch that's always on my hip here. And this has my can't see shit tape measure. It has remotes. This one is for a shop vac. This is for that dust collector over there. I always keep those on me. Pencils, marking knives, square little DFM So that's always on my hip in the shop whenever I'm working. Just stuff that I hate walking away from losing. And it's been really, really effective for that. Working our way a little bit further over here, I just have these metal shelvings. I think these came out of a dental office or something. But some router bits. The rest of the router bits are in that gray chest we just looked at. Chargers, all of my different routers. Routers are your best friend. We have 2 DeWalt's plunge and then the cordless. We have 2 different Bosch styles and then a little rigid that I hate back there, but it just has a round over bit in it all the time. That's what lives there. If you go a little bit further over, you have my 2 sanders that I primarily use. This is the Bosch big boy that has a turbo mode. I really like this thing a lot. I've never used the Festool Rotex, but it's much cheaper and it got a lot of really great reviews. So I went with it. I've been super happy with it. And then this is my only Festool sander. It's the 5-inch. I splurged on my birthday and I spent a little bit of money on this one. I think it was like 250 bucks, which really wasn't bad. But it is a ETS 125 REQ. Again, dyslexic in these companies with their friggin' numbers. So this is all of my sharpening stones. I just use whetstones on my chisels. And I'm a big fan of the 3M Extract. Here we go, focus. So I've been using this for a long time now. I like it a lot. Pocket hole jig. This was a new, I don't know the model. I'm not going to tell you the model, but clamps to the bench. I've really liked this. Like I said, I do a lot of pocket hole screws when I'm doing wainscoting, cabinet face frames, things like that. So this is where my wood glue lives. I have the new DeWalt biscuit joiner, and I know people dog on biscuit joiners all the time. It's because you're comparing it to a domino. It's not the same thing. It's like comparing a Silverado to a Corvette. They're not the same thing. Yeah, they both like make a hole, and those two things both drive, but they have different jobs. But I had to buy this because my corded version finally died, which, to be fair, I beat the crap out of that thing. Never changed the blades. I ran it through so much hickory doing countertops. Like, yeah, I'm not mad that it died. I got my money's worth out of it. And then I buy the Trend biscuits in bulk, and they seem to be fine. Number 20s, and that's a box of 1,000, so about halfway through it. And then below that we have some finishes, things like that. Down there is all wood stains that I'm just trying to give away. I don't use stains anymore. I mix all my own dyes, or I buy a dye, or I use hard wax oils like Rubio Monocoat. This is actually what I use to mix my own colors. Mixel. They don't even have English on the bottle. It's all in German. It's a little bit pricey, but hey, that's gotta pay to play. But yeah, that's kind of, oh, and then a bunch of more junk chaos down below and up above. I don't even think I'm going to show you that actually, so we'll just sort of skip. All right, getting into this wall right here. This is where I have my French cleats in the summertime. This is where my air conditioner goes. Yes, I air condition my shop because I can, and I am not working in the heat if I don't have to. I spent too many years working in a steel mill to be working in a hot shop I have control over. So, as the business owner, I get to make that choice, and it was a good one. Big stick level, really useful when hanging doors. Again, I've been doing a huge door job, which this is actually the Trend. Yeah, so this is a jig to help you lay out all your mortises for your door hinges, and it's got this slot right here that hooks on the top of the jamb and also hooks on the top of the door so that you get your layouts correct. This was kind of pricey. I want to say this was like $230, $240. They have a more expensive one. You probably could just make one, to be completely honest with you, but I bet it into the job and I like it for the most part. Some of my clamps aren't here right now because they're on the workbench, which we'll see in a minute. A lot of my clamps stay here. My other tracks for shorter things, I got this little 3D printed track square here, and it actually does a fantastic job. I know that a lot of the more popular track squares don't work on DeWalt. This one does. I can flip it around and do 45s, and it was really inexpensive, so big fan of that. I cannot remember who I got it from, but definitely look it up. All-Star in the shop, the old broom and dustpan. And then low-key, one of my favorite tools that I didn't think I would like. Early in my career, I bought like a whole big starter kit of DeWalt, and I was running a crew back then and stuff. I seen the blower in it because I bought it online. I was like, sweet, and then I got it, and it was this little tiny thing, and I was like, oh, that's stupid. I'll never use that. I use the shit out of this thing. I absolutely love it all the time. One of my favorite tools. They're expensive, but I like maybe look for an off-brand. But yeah, this little shop blower, it is fantastic. It is the DCE 100 for you number knowing guys. One thing of note about the French cleats is I don't actually like it. I like the system. The system's just fine, but it's like I said earlier, I don't like to build stuff for the shop. I like to build stuff in the shop because that's how I make my living. That's how I pay my mortgage, truck payment, all that. So I think I'm gonna go to pegboard, just because I don't have to build all the little things. And all the little things that I did build are really half-assed, as you can see. And I really don't move stuff around that much. When I buy new clamps, it's really handy. So I think I'm gonna switch to pegboard, and I think I'll get more utility out of that. I know that a lot of people hate it, but I think it's just gonna work better for me and my workflow and my organization, which many of you might think is no organization, but believe me, I know where everything is in here, almost, except for the dustpan, like 90% of the time. Everyone loses tape measures. I lose freaking dustpans and pencils. Actually, that's a good point. There's like 5 million pencils floating around here, so there's always a mechanical pencil nearby. All right, now that we're getting towards the center of the shop, here's my workbench, which I did a whole video on. I'll show you a little bit there. That was the first video that I actually did. And then my table saw. So this is a Delta. This is like the $600 contractor saw at Lowe's, and I bought it secondhand. And for years, I used a DeWalt 8 1/4 inch table saw, job site saw. I had a stand for it on the job site, and then I built a little thing for it to sit into the crap workbench I used to have. And honestly, like, now that I have this, I wouldn't go back to that, but I did a ton of good work on that thing. And you don't really need a super fancy table saw. I know that's where people love to spend all their money. I don't really buy into that personally. So this has been just fine for me. And like I said earlier in the video, I really use my miter saw for a lot of stuff. And then as you saw, I have a ton of routers. That's typically more my workflow. I really only use this thing for ripping. I do also use it for joining. I have a joiner jig built for it more. It's a taper cutter. But also if the board's short enough for the fence, you can just zip it through, flip it, and zip it again. So there's that. One thing that I did add to this since doing that video is I installed a router table top on it. This is just a Bosch job site router table. The crap thing is I can't put a different lift in it because of the proprietary sizes and stuff. So this might get replaced. I had to do a little customization to the fence to make my Jessam stock guides work. Those are absolutely awesome. But I get a lot of crap that I put this in backwards on the internet. So basically I feed things through here and they go straight onto my outfeed table. So if I'm doing long runs of things, I have support the whole way down, which is fantastic. And then on top of that, like I said, I'm doing all these big doors with these huge raised panels. I can just push the whole raised panel this way and I have all of this support. So the other thing with that is with this fence on all the way over, no bit in or the bit drop down, I still can cut 28.5 inches. If I had this flipped around, I would have to take the fence off in order to get that much capacity. So I didn't think I was gonna like this. I didn't want to do it, but I didn't have a choice because of this big door job. There's like 19 interior white oak doors. Not like it was 19. And so in order to run all of that, stiles and rails and the raised panels and things like that, I kind of was forced to do this, and I'm really glad I did. The only knock on it is I have to adjust this all the time. This gets out of plane just a little bit. So I need to fix that again and probably get some lock washers or something on there to try and help it. Otherwise though, I've been really happy with this setup. And another thing with this Delta, I've cut 8/4 white oak with it. I cut hardwood with it all day long. Just take your time. It'll do the job for you. So if money is an object, you're probably going to get way more out of this saw than a job site saw. And if you're trying to make a business out of it, rather than say save up thousands of dollars for a saw stop, just buy this now. It'll pay for itself quickly, then save up your money, because you're gonna get way more productivity out of this than you would another saw. You can do a lot more with this than say a job site saw. Not that I still have the DeWalt, it's my job site saw now, it's fantastic. But yeah, I've been happy with this. It's done everything I've asked it to do so far, and I really haven't had any issues with it. Dust collections, meh. I mean, it's sawdust, you'll be all right. So yeah, this has been a big upgrade this year to the shop. Happy with it. I do need to build some cabinetry underneath, especially for this router, because like some router bits will throw dust straight down, and there have been times where I've filled this shop with chips from doing raised panels and things like that. So that's definitely on the to-do list for the year. That's high on the to-do list. Like before I get another raised panel job, gonna get that done. Okay, as mentioned, did a whole video on the Workbench, but basically I keep kind of my cabinet box underneath there, keep my track saw there so I can grab it easily. It's really staticky this time of year, but this is my track saw. It's a 60 volt DeWalt. This thing's a monster. I'll cut 8/4 lumber with it all the time, like 19 doors, like I did it a bunch, and it has no problem. I do it in one pass. I don't know what this like costs these days compared to everything else, but I bought it because I was already on the platform and they didn't have a lot of options out yet. But this has been like I hate the word game changer, but it literally was a game changer for me work wise. So I absolutely love this tool. It's a beast. It has no problem cutting. Dust collections, yeah, but it doesn't have all the doodads and stuff like that, like say Festool and things. It's been out for a long time, I think, so they may update it down the line, who knows. DeWalt kind of tends to try and make it right the first time, and they don't update stuff all the time except for like drills and drivers and stuff, which is cool, because I hate like the Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4 thing, especially when the first gen just kind of sucked, but it was your only option. But yeah, so big fan of that. Again, that's why I don't have a joiner in here, because I have the track saw. And then right there is my shop vac system that I can run for sanders, the track saw, things like that. These drawers, this one is mostly my chisels. I use the Stanley Sweethearts. They're not the best chisel in the world, but I have zero issue with them. I get an edge on them, and then all I got to do is strop it every now and then. So I have a full set of those. Beater chisel, awl, corner chisel, bench cookies, marking gauge, all of these kind of fun things. They're all easy to reach. And then drawer 2 gets a little bit chaotic. There's some squares, some measuring stuff. My only woodpecker tool is expensive ruler, track saw clamps, dog hole stuff for the dog holes I don't have in my bench yet, you know. And then over here, just a pretty basic woodworking vise, and then, you know, wolf. And this is done fine for me. And then underneath there, you can see I keep some sawhorses, and that's it for this side. Coming over to this side of the bench, I apologize, the lighting's kind of crap here because of the loft, but yeah, a couple more drawers, shims, doweling jigs, things like that. The thing that sucks about these drawers is they're made for like wrenches and sockets. They're not very deep, so I'm limited as to what I can keep in here, but I do have sanding sponges, which I mentioned in my pack out video, and then these contour sanding pads and all the Duragold stuff. I like having that at hands, arm's reach. And then above, I also have a retractable overhead power cord, which is fantastic. I wish I could have my hose for my dust collection overhead. That would be really cool. Maybe a boom arm is in the future. Yeah, that's basically it for the Workbench. All right, so the secret to getting so much work done in a small shop is having two shops, and I apologize, the lighting in here is absolutely terrible. But basically this is my second shop that is just my paint shop and finishing shop. It's 10 by 16. It's another Amish built shed. They dropped it in my property. I built my original spray racks and ran an extension cord to it and started spraying a job that day. Now, why this is so important is because I can actually take things out of the wood shop that have finished that's going to need to dry, you don't want to get sawdust on. I can do that in here, and then I can go back in there and keep working. And a huge part of my business is actually cabinet painting. I hate doing it, but it's very profitable. And I've done over 70 kitchens in the last 3 years, give or take. So that's what this is really tailored towards. And as you can see, I have pegboard now. I used to have PVC pipe, but I could fit way more doors and drawer faces. And now I paint everything by hand in the kitchen in the homeowner's area. Also, when I build cabinets or things that need painted, they come in here. Anytime I need to do finish, it's not like a hard wax oil or something, it comes in here. The only downside is it's very narrow. So painting a large cabinet that I build is kind of a pain in the ass. So we're gonna try and work on that in the future. But all in all, this space right here has been an absolute game changer to me. It's always dirty, it's always a mess, it's always ugly. I hate being in here, but spray days are paydays. So you got to do what you got to do to make the money, right? All right, so that's it for my shop. Like I said, it's very utilitarian. It's very practical. I didn't want to have a jigsaw puzzle of like 50 million tools in here. I do want to buy a drum sander in the future. I don't know which one yet. If you have any recommendations, let me know. I think I'm going to throw some coin at that because that seems like a big time saver, and eventually a bandsaw. But I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Really though, I think the biggest takeaway from it all is like, listen, like I run a business out of this, and I started that business from nothing, built it up to this. You don't need the most expensive, fanciest tools in the world. You don't need all the tools in the world. If you want to try and make a living doing this, or you want to try and make a living in the trades, it's kind of the best way to get in and work for yourself, as long as like you go educate yourself on the business end of things too. Really, like the biggest takeaway from this is just, you know, you don't have to have the nicest shop, the prettiest fixtures, things like that. All of those are nice. You don't have to have Festool everything. If you're just a tool nut and that's what you want to do and that's what you want to spend your money on, sweet. By all means do it, but that's just not the way that I do it. I know I do things a little bit differently and it works for me. I'm always trying to tinker and get more efficient and get better, and so this space is always going to kind of evolve. That's really why I wanted to do this video. That way it gives me an opportunity to kind of look back in a year and see where everything's at. And also just to let people know, like, yeah, you can do it. You can go out and make a living doing this. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you like and subscribe. Hopefully we'll have Jack in a few more videos, but stick around. Let me know in the comments section, you know, what kind of square footage are you working out of? What do you do? What are you working on? And what kind of videos you want to see next. You can also find me on Instagram under Besser Builds. I'm pretty good at communicating with people, but I do run a business. So, you know, hit me up if you have any questions, video ideas. Until then, thanks, and hopefully we'll see you again.